This may sound like it's common sense, and yet I find nobody pays attention to this on their own. If you look at the people who are the best at generating business, one of the most universal facts about them is that they tend to focus on their personality strengths and what they can do well. They don't necessarily copy other rainmakers. And I think the problem we run into is most partners think they know what they're good at, but what they're really telling you is they know what they're comfortable doing and they know what's easy, not necessarily what they're good at.
Welcome back to our Happy Rainmakers Video Series, where point one can make a difference. I'm very lucky to be joined today by Blane Prescott, who is the managing shareholder and consultant at Mesa Five. Welcome, Blane.
Thanks, Jennifer.
A lot of the people who I deal with on a daily basis and the ones who are watching these videos are really hopeful that you can crack the code of how to be a huge rainmaker, since you deal with a lot of compensation issues. What does it take to become a rainmaker? And is there anything that people can do to maybe facilitate becoming a bigger rainmaker?
In our work, one of the things that we do a lot of is we coach a lot of partners, usually in the context of compensation. People come to us and say, how can I earn more money? And almost the universal answer in law firms is generate more business. And yet, most law firms don't give people very good, meaningful advice about that. So probably one thing I would tell everybody is this may sound like it's common sense, and yet I find nobody pays attention to this on their own. If you look at the people who are the best at generating business, one of the most universal facts about them is that they tend to focus on their personality strengths and what they can do well. They don't necessarily copy other rainmakers. And I think the problem we run into is most partners think they know what they're good at, but what they're really telling you is they know what they're comfortable doing and they know what's easy, not necessarily what they're good at. Because a lot of things that you might be really good at do occasionally make you a little bit uncomfortable. So as a result, they do a lot of the wrong activities. You know, they might be writing when they shouldn't be writing. And the common problem we see with a lot of law firms writing is that lawyers write law review articles and clients don't want to read law review articles. They want to figure out how to solve their problems. So you see a lot of lawyers who think they're marketing by writing an article. Writing a 40-page article that no one reads isn't good marketing. So figuring out what you're good at, figuring out the kinds of activities that might actually, translate into client generation, that's probably one of the toughest things. And yet, it's probably the single most fundamental fact that we find about great rainmakers is they really focus on the things that they do well. I think probably one of the challenges is for a lot of law firms, they don't really have the mechanism or the infrastructure in place to help people figure out what they're good at. And that's probably one of the biggest challenges that we face. It involves some experimentation, giving them good guidance about, even if somebody comes up with an idea, say, that might be something you're comfortable with, but that has no chance whatsoever of generating any business. So trying to get good advice to people, that's one of the big challenges we face. If you can find the right person to coach you, that absolutely will help. The person needs to be tough on you, though. Somebody who can break through your own insecurities and say, I want to challenge you. I want you to try some things that you may not be comfortable with, but you might discover on your first effort that you're actually really good at this. And you can generate, really good business as a result.
So to anyone who's watching this video, if you're still a relatively junior associate, the advice is keep plugging away and developing those relationships for later. But if you're, a very experienced attorney and you're working on some business development activities that just really aren't showing results, maybe it's time to think about what you might do instead.
Yeah, your advice about telling associates develop lots of relationships, because those relationships, whether they stay with their current company, they go somewhere else, they'll be your relationships for life. Absolutely perfect advice. But you're correct. For partners who've been plugging away and not generating any business, it's time that we take a harder look at what you're doing and maybe find some activities that have a much greater chance of success than what you're doing.
So I guess they should think about, what activities have I been doing? How have I been doing them? Who is the intended audience? Who's the actual audience? and make sure that they're lining up correctly.
Absolutely correct. The challenge is you would think that those are the questions everybody would ask, and yet they don't. I can't tell you how many partners I've come across who do the same thing year after year after year. They know they're not generating any business, and yet they continue to do those same activities. I think
You never know. Maybe this time it'll work.
for a lot of people, they're just so comfortable and they don't want to cross over any of those insecurities. So as a result, it's easier just to keep doing the same thing. And frankly, rationalize this by saying, oh, marketing takes a long time. No, marketing doesn't take 12 years. Anyone who tells you that it takes a long time, the interesting thing is we frequently do a lot of coaching with partners and a compensation interview, giving them guidance. And in 3 months, 4 months, we've gotten them to the point where they're generating $500,000 far faster. Nobody should buy into the concept that marketing takes forever. It doesn't. It probably takes forever if you're doing the wrong things.
That's a great quote, Blane. I think that anybody who's listening to this or watching this video and isn't having any success with their marketing might want to consult with a coach. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks, Jennifer. I appreciate it.